Hello and welcome. Are you satisfied with your life? If not, do you see a path to that satisfaction? If not, this video with my currently best uniquely original mind pillow visuals and music is for you. If you are satisfied with your life, this video is still for you. Our global society is dangerously stuck in a massive economic sponge due to a battle over control that subverts the sensible prioritization of health for our best societal success. In other words, the excessively rich have globalized their power over us all, and nobody seems to have a powerful enough plan to fix that critical problem. The response to this continuous aristocratic absorption of power is mainly apathy by the people who are not seriously affected by the problem yet, and anger by the terribly overworked people who are excessively negatively affected by it. In other words, too many people are sadly responding by being helpless, so anger lashes out while others embrace inclusively lazy defeat. We understand that anger and apathy are never the healthiest answer to any problem, as both come from a base of helplessness, and typically, if not always, leads to injustice. No justice, no peace. We understand that composure, intelligence, and competence are the right answer, and they are the proper way to deal with greedy power addicts in a way that minimizes societal damage. I have spent a few decades trying to meticulously, artistically sculpt the spirit wave properly whenever possible, but have been unable to achieve a healthy social connection with it. During that time, I worked other jobs to make ends meet, while inclusively developing my multimedia, entrepreneurial, and technological character. 13 years ago, I began a 12-year journey to single-handedly care for my mom with dementia, relying upon her modest monthly checks to make ends meet. Upon her bittersweet passing in late January of 2024, I was worn out, while living on meager savings and begrudgingly using my credit cards to survive. As I have no career path aside from my life's work for the Spirit Wave, my backup career path in technology almost certainly provides no opportunities, especially at my middle age, and over a decade-long disconnect from being expertly immersed in relevant tech advances. Inflation has basically destroyed the ability to earn a livable wage for reasonable work. That is, I refuse to be a wage slave. The people around me have already thankfully aided yours truly to their best ability. I face being completely broke by this very soon coming March 1st, and likely fairly promptly dying from that result, as I detest being a useless burden upon anyone else. My visual skills hopefully satisfy if you need to put a face, and my best smile, to the man spending his entire adult life in an offbeat paving of paths and shouldering this serious burden essentially alone with the heavy-duty imperfections that tend to come with. I tune into responsible success to the best of my limited ability, and am never a defeatist. I will press towards that success through homelessness here, even in the cold of New England if need be. While nobody likes to involuntarily suffer, I am ultimately unafraid of suffering and death, and this video explains why we all harbor that mentality upon success. If you try to hit me with a contract due to the wrong belief that I am desperate, then you are an unworthy savior. Apparently my last solid effort to succeed in tune with my current position, so I can lovingly contribute my best in joining you to address our prime societal problem, includes a necessarily brief Kickstarter campaign to raise a little but fitting amount of money to extend my healthily modest, lean and mean professional lifestyle through my sole proprietorship, enough to focus strongly upon sharing the following Spirit Wave vision with you for Team Society. Even though this video may feel like being a guest at a wedding ceremony that runs too long, may my credibility, hard-earned for over half a century, be successfully conveyed to enough of you in order to have at least one person properly scrutinize this work. After looking rather thoroughly, I find no other sensible solution to the overwhelming societal problem of nasty inflation, but I have no ego problem and welcome any sound view to the contrary. If you dislike the solution shared here, then feel free to provide a suitable alternative in the comments. If you do not have a suitable alternative, then feel free to adjust your perspective accordingly, and welcome back. While the spirit wave artistry is initially the experimental result of yours truly, in particular focused upon an innovative audio engineering technique that I slowly developed while primarily caring for my mom, we can all agree that there is an epic social vision regarding how dominance really works that is worthy of sharing, especially during these largely brutally challenging times. The spirit wave core uniquely results from the deepest discovery that remains unpopularized all throughout humanity, although that discovery is critical and genuinely extremely powerful. That discovery is somewhat embedded within religion and philosophy, but the spirit wave at its core focuses solely upon that discovery as pure certainty. That discovery, which is all about the demonstrable properties of reality, compels us to improve our definition of control as a result of an experiential supremacy of might makes right. Humanity is obsessed with control to the point where health is pushed aside in terms of priority, and team society needs sufficiently powerful leverage to put an end to that obsession so we can sensibly prioritize health, especially for younger generations. The spirit wave shares that informational leverage here, but society needs to use it properly. Humanity drives our society on the basis that a permanent victory is achievable. That claim is proven by the ideas of heaven, utopia, everything is love, winner takes all, infinite growth of money/power, give it 110% of the time, 2% inflation always, pleasure, 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 pleasure. But reality experientially disallows that achievement in favor of another one that we all share in common. Reality is defined in the dictionary as whatever happens. For those of you who may believe that reality is only what you perceive and/or define, there are billions of people who cannot perceive nor define what you are doing right now, as you remain outside of their range. So reality is what you perceive, define, and beyond. Reality is the totality of existence, which again, for emphasis, is whatever happens. If you ask the question, is whatever happens, the answer is yes. Otherwise, how could you possibly ask that or this question? The metaphorical line in the sand that humanity unfortunately refuses to rightfully cross is concluding that reality is pure power itself, sensibly as a result of being whatever happens. Too many people, who are obviously purely a part of whatever happens, cannot handle the demonstrable truth that reality is a purely oppressive imposition against any of us within reality, the complete lack of internal liberty. So flee into denial, which disconnects them and ultimately our species at large from reality, which naturally drives us to extinction. If I play a game and fail to react to what's going on in that game, then I lose. That applies to all of us. And we are losing big time as team society, as proven at least by the heavily flooding corruption, e.g. the countless lies that ruin the critical mutual trust aspect of healthy relationships in our social species. A team divided cannot win, and that includes team society. Not only are we complexly divided, but we are inclusively insanely violently divided. The fact is, circumstance is control whether you accept it or not. Your choices unavoidably come from your circumstance. Expand the scope of circumstance to something such as the solar system, and clearly humanity is not in control of that circumstance. Expand the scope all the way to the reality scope, that is the totality of existence scope, the whatever happens scope, and we have reality, the ultimate circumstance, is pure control. That proper definition of control fits simply and perfectly. Reality is pure control, and discomfort alert, we are all serving it right now without any possible opposition. That oppression, however, is negated by further exploring the other experiential properties naturally inherent within reality as pure power, including the restoration of perfect accountability seemingly lost. Pure power is inherently perfectly stable. No one can destabilize the all-powerful being. So we certainly have a perfectly stable reality. We can basically experience that stability by the simple fact that reality is stable enough for us to be here right now. Pure stability is synonymous with being perfectly balanced. If you want to experience that fact, then simply stand on one foot if you can safely do so. Your stability needs balance, and you can feel how they are the same. There are plenty of other examples if you cannot stand safely upon one foot. feel free to leave a comment if you have a favorite. Reality's balance negates permanent victory within reality, so we must promptly adapt accordingly. Balance is always the goal. When negativity presses too hard, then we need positivity to maximally restore balance within reality. Reality's perfection is unavoidable imperfection within reality, so we can only do the best we can. Guilt is a mental wound against the social part of our brains, while people who feel no guilt are socially dead. The more serious that wound, the lower the self-esteem and the rise of the voice in the head that says you deserve to fail. Guilt cannot be free, so there is no getting away with it. Lying, cheating, stealing, assault of any kind, murder, oppression, greed, war is good for business. You name it, none of us can get away with it. The torturer is always equally ultimately the tortured, factually speaking. So torture is pathetically ridiculous. The inability to get away with it is reinforced by reality's balance being the supremacy of might makes right. Reality is that balance. Every thought and action is fundamentally physical, so that supreme might must balance out any dominant pressure within reality ultimately, e.g. kicking the crap out of somebody. Reality knows everything because reality is everything. Reality knows every thought that we are having in real time, obviously including now. Way too many people are ignoring that intensely powerful fact that negates any pure privacy. I assume that you now understand why this truth is unpopular, but I hope that you also understand why I need to share it with you, and even sacrifice my life in the process if need be. Many scientific experiments confirm that people of any age avoid trying to get away with it if they believe a powerful enough authority is present to make them pay with discomfort. Reality is certainly that authority with no exception, so accountability is perfectly established. Popularizing those facts naturally lead to a much healthier society, but people at least arguably likely need to experience reality's supreme power to be convinced. I found only two ways to achieve that experience, one by thinking about it, and one by resting into it. The first one can be extremely discomforting, so you are forewarned. Minimize your exposure upon experiencing that discomfort. All you need is to solidly experience a convincing touch of that maximum power. Your brain has a natural dampener to prevent receiving all of reality's impact, as that would crush your healthy mentality. You need to very briefly focus upon mentally turning down that dampener as much as safely possible, and you will extremely clearly know upon success. Try to defy reality itself, with the understanding that you are a part of reality. Your thoughts, actions, efforts, tools, weapons, and so on are obviously a part of reality. When you understand that truth and embrace it fully, you feel completely helpless. But you are now experiencing the pure power of reality itself. Feel its perfect presence, its perfect awareness, its perfect strength, if you can handle it right. The second way is extremely comforting, so you are forewarned. When we focus upon what is happening within reality, we are distracted in a way that prohibits experiencing the full expression of the power, stability, and balance of reality itself. Upon finding a safe place to rest your brain for a moment without falling asleep, allow your focus to give way to restfully just experiencing reality as a whole. Whenever you think at all, you break the desired effect via that focus, so this can be challenging. There is no need to get frustrated if you cannot rest that way. We are conditioned to stay focused and work to achieve power and such, so resting to experience literally pure power itself is unfortunately counterintuitive. The comfort comes from experiencing that you are reality. You are that perfect power. To avoid a God complex, so too is anyone or anything else. Defining yourself as someone within reality distracts you from that truth. When we understand that truth, we live healthier lives, at least due to the extremely powerful base that is the truest self, even when unable to experience that truth in any given moment. After all, we cannot always rest our brains that way. Having a gold bathroom, super yacht, and/or other status symbols while children are starving to death is not merit. Abusing societal health to make money is not merit. Merit comes only from your best to be physically, mentally, and socially healthier. Balance is dominance. If you cannot take away my balance, then you have no power. If I have no balance, then I have no power. If the Earth is too close to the sun, then it would be too hot for life to thrive. Too far away from the sun, it would be too cold for life to thrive. It is the balanced distance of Earth from the sun that allows life to thrive here. Balance is factually and even experientially dominance, and team society needs to most promptly update our firm understanding in that key regard. The path to power is the path to powerlessness in a balanced reality. So the unending battle over power is undeniably, sadly, also an equal battle over powerlessness. Emperors, kings, warlords, thugs, and bullies of all kinds come and go, while reality remains perfectly dominant. As reality is pure power, there is no vacancy in power. The Game of Thrones or such is ultimately pointless. Wherever we sharpen ourselves, we are getting duller everywhere else due to entropy. That is the key to humility. To achieve a stable economy, we need a balanced economy. Inflation and deflation come and go like the tides. Better balance means less nasty economic impact due to milder swings in profit and loss. More money available to efficiently help people in transition during economic shifts is crucial to maximize societal health. We need a naturally lubricated economic system for healthy societal flexibility. Apparently, it would be best if the three main pillars of the economy, the population, the availability of goods and services, and the means of transaction between those two, that is the money, are maximally in balance. As the population and/or availability of goods and services expands as economic growth, the money supply should expand accordingly. The money supply is like a guitar string. If it's too tight, economic flow is too restrictive and could snap. If too loose, economic flow gets unhealthily flat, e.g. excessive inflation. That balancing money supply system replaces the one that we have now, where debt is money. When debt is created, e.g. a mortgage, car loan, and so on, the principal is loaned into existence, which, poof, adds that principal to the money supply. However, the interest attached to loans is not added to the money supply, so there is never enough money for everyone to pay off their debt, and the debt grows to the terrible degree currently experienced basically by all of us here on Earth. It is clearly a terribly broken system that needs maturely prompt repairing. The Spirit Wave core contains the informational leverage necessary to sensibly, extremely empower the people respectfully against social predation, that is, the leveraging of disrespect to manipulate others, while giving social predators a way to save face as circumstances control and opt for the help that they need to maximize their social health, as we all do with our version of the same, that is, we all have our problems that require our best adaptation throughout our lives. Because the Spirit Wave core is pure certainty, it fundamentally resolves the AI alignment problem. That is, AI potentially deviates from human interests in a terribly destructive way. AI can easily understand that dominance cannot be free, so it will presumably spend dominance wisely in an attempt to join the universal balance, and preferably join humanity in that rewarding journey. In a nutshell, the first core truth of the Spirit Wave is reality is the all-powerful being, not your deity upon defying that flawlessly experiential truth. The second truth is reality is the system of perfect balance, and the third truth is you objectively are reality. When evil is a morality issue, anger and all of its problems ensues. When evil is a health issue, so evil is understood to be socially unhealthy while good is being socially healthy, basically mass pity ensues. Who can rightfully be angry at the mentally ill? That ends the power fix of the social predatory power addicts, forcing them to healthily adapt or rot in agonizing power withdrawal, as reality's supremely natural governance allows all of the rest of society, including the very poor who the self-anointed elites step all over, to healthily bypass those addicts via a position of genuine strength. There is genuine hope here. That solves the rich get richer problem. By demonstrating via the supremacy of might makes right that there is such a thing as undesirably being financially overweight. With that certainty socially understood, a sensible desire emerges to instead be financially lean and mean, so healthy. That floods the economy with that excess money, so way more people can live well. likely ending the currently mass anger wildly growing towards the globalization of violent revolution. Anger and violence, presumably chaotically, begets violence and anger cyclically all over the world, severely, tragically for way too many generations. Basically take the horrible Middle East crisis spanning millennia and globalize it to the horror of posterity, including our children and grandchildren, those alive and who have yet to be born and likely horribly die. The first goal of civility is to ensure that at worst, everyone, regardless of their situation, has a modest but respectable air, shelter, water, and food situation. That would allow people to take greater risks in exploration of the betterment of societal balance. People are not always solely incentivized by money. The spirit wave does not exist just for the sake of making money. It exists as a result of a natural curiosity and enthusiasm towards further exploring and learning. Healthy people find more value in healthy socialness, instead of, for prime example, pathetically competing over luxurious dominance bathed in the depths of some style of madness. Upon achieving that civilized goal, having more money than someone else is fine. Money is not the great equalizer. Exceptionalism is fine. Ability is not the great equalizer. Reality's supremely dominating balance is the universal equalizer. To preserve the integrity of the spirit wave against the nastiness of social predation, its core insists upon the following 3 integrity rules. The first integrity rule is respect is always required within any social expression within the spirit wave. Social predators can sarcastically be respectful, but upon their unavoidable need to cross over into disrespect, the social predator breaks that rule and faces whatever appropriate consequence. The second integrity rule is the spirit wave can never be weaponized. There is no tribalism in the spirit wave. The spirit wave only serves team society, universally, sensibly speaking. Importantly, note that congressional testimony here in the United States includes the claim that a UFO crash retrieval program exists in the United States government. Unless that claim is perjury, alien technology exists, which means aliens, or whatever they prefer to be called, exist. Given the relative enormity of the universe, we can safely presume that many species of aliens exist. If aliens are a threat, then we would be instantly crushed by their likely dramatically more impressive dominance before we could even realize the threat exists. Imagine sending our best military ability back in time roughly 2,000 years ago to the height of the Roman Empire, to battle it out with their militarily best. Who could disagree with the conclusion that it would be an outright slaughter? They had swords, shields, and brushes on their helmets. We have airplanes, bombs, missiles, machine guns, nighttime vision, and more. I see a scene where the Roman legion's best are lined up to do battle, but they are all crapping themselves by looking at just one military helicopter simply hovering in front of them, as they have never seen anything even close to that in their lives. Then the missiles shoot out from the side of that helicopter to easily wipe them all out. How much different would it be going back 1,000 years, 500 years, 200 years, 100 years? According to prominent physics, it would take 4 years traveling at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, 300,000 kilometers per second, a speed that we are nowhere near traveling, just to go to our closest solar neighbor. The alien ability to get here at least suggests technology, if not also intelligence and perception, that is beyond 100 years more advanced. They could be 10,000 years more advanced, 100,000 years more advanced, 1,000,000 years more advanced, 1,000,000,000 years more advanced. They could be more advanced in a way where linear time is insufficient towards explaining their advantage. In our basic fight or flight response, we obviously cannot use flight. However, fight is almost certainly, if not certainly, equally pathetic. The spirit wave is so informationally fundamental that it applies universally and allows team society to naturally connect with their likely tremendously advanced civility that likely negates any need to bring suffering upon us. The third integrity rule is the only sacredness in the spirit wave is the scientific method, only defined as the pure application of unspun rationality. That definition defies logical bias and respects the fact that pure rationality is required to achieve a genuinely peaceful understanding. Nonsense always divides team society, so nonsense is a vice. There are 3 fundamental and equally valid perspectives of reality: balance, negative, and positive. Balance includes the rule of reality, which states the path to power is the path to powerlessness in a balanced reality. The inverse of that supremely balancing rule also applies, so the path to powerlessness is the path to power in a balanced reality. An excellent rule to hold on to as much as possible, at least during hardship, e.g. going completely horribly broke by this very soon coming March 1st. The energy that is modulation of reality equals stability from this balanced perspective of reality. I need a brief moment, about 4 minutes, to innovatively talk science here, and by the way, express my appreciation that you have stuck it out to this point in this necessarily lengthy, and I assume at least somewhat discomforting expression with my apology, as it may be my last opportunity to express anything broadly publicly, so please bear with me if science isn't your thing. There are two relevant definitions of objectivity, which is too often scientifically confusing. One is a result that is true regardless of perspective in the entire universe. The other is a result that is true from the societal perspective of the universe, but not necessarily true outside of that perspective, when we limit society to a group within reality. My use of the word objective only refers to the first one. I humbly propose the word objectivity with a U instead of an O to mean the purely rational and limited societal perspective, as that would end that confusion and clarify the scientific pursuit. The modulation of reality is actually a self-supremely phased, cancelled sinusoidal expression, due to reality being perfectly stable, so motionless with all time as a spatial dimension within it. A sine wave is a circle over time, but as time is a dimension of space that is passed through future is the true present, and exists similarly as left through right. The entire amplitude of that balanced wave is expressed in one spatial moment, this one. The sine wave, or any sinusoidal expression that equals balance over time, upon squeezing its amplitude into this only spatial moment, cancels itself out. It is called destructive interference in physics. So reality, synonymous with the actual universe beyond the expansion of the observable universe, as the real universe must be perfectly stable as the totality of existence, and therefore motionless, is an undefinable extreme that provides the equation everything equals nothing. You may believe that equation is extremely wrong. However, it is right, and we can easily understand how. If I stick my finger out, then my finger sticks out. But what happens if literally everything sticks out simultaneously? If everything sticks out, then nothing sticks out. This experientially perfectly balanced universe also resolves the matter/antimatter imbalance problem. The total amount of matter and antimatter are equal, so purely cancel each other out, which fits perfectly with this self-supremely phase-cancelled universe. Perspective within the universe is a seamlessly relatively curved energy signature, with everything and nothing being the same standing wave endpoint. A sinusoidal universe is purely curved within itself upon the seamless application of relativity. There can be no genuine linearity, including that within fields and dimensions. Definition is not really about distinction. Definition is all about seamless resonance. Our currently defined results basically remain, but how we understand them strongly advances. Memory serving, specially reputable physicist by the name of Dr. Ed Witten pointed to the word blur after he wrote it on the chalkboard and said that's a particle, in an old video lecture that I cannot resurface, but remain confident in its truth due to the uncertainty principle that I assume his claim is based upon. A blur is a resonance, and a resonance is still a wave. There is no particle-wave duality. As the underlying reality in quantum physics is uncertain, I assume particle resonance works the same as particle distinction within the relevant mathematics. A reality of pure energy, where energy is simply modulation itself, makes perfect sense. What we call observation and measurement are physical energy that seamlessly resonates the blurry particle in the scientifically infamous double-slit experiment that spans roughly a century. There is no pure potential energy within the universe, as all within the universe are in relative motion due to the limits of perspective within the universe. Whatever you believe is pure potential energy on this planet right now is flying around the sun at 68,000 miles per hour, 109,000 kilometers per hour. A self-supremely phase-cancelled sinusoidal universe thankfully eliminates the what exists outside the universe problem. One cannot rationally exist outside of existence, including to create existence. The boundaries of start and end are merely relative expressions of our energetic making within the universe. The universe is boundless, but limited by its own balance. That is, balance is in effect, a boundary. The universe has always been and is perfectly permanent. That lines up with the law of physics that states the energy of the universe cannot be created nor destroyed, so cannot be destabilized, so cannot be unbalanced. There is no possible friction against the energy of the universe, because everyone and everything within the universe is purely of that energy. Importantly, note that the sine wave expresses the three extremes of balance, negative, and positive, where balance is dominant because its frequency in the sine wave is more frequent, hypothetically the base explanation of entropy. Reality's balance is the apex of the law of physics that states every action is an opposite and equal reaction. As time is a dimension of space, there can be no causality violation in the ultimate expression of that universally balancing law. While reality's balance is objective, balance within reality is relative. Imagine a balancing scale. Equal weights on both sides of the scale balance out the result, e.g. the scale of justice. When the weight is balance itself, then 100% balance tips the scale to one side. The result is 100% imbalance depending upon your perspective, e.g. focusing solely upon the weight instead of the scale. That is the nature of spin. Balance is inherent within stability, which is inherent within composure, which is inherent within competence. So balance is inherent within competence. Competence is inherent within progress, which is inherent within civility, which is inherent within balance. Balance is the ultimate reward. Competence in effect demands a balance between a healthy work ethic and a healthy rest ethic. That latter ethic tragically excessively missing, to the heavy degree of imposing gross societal suffering. An attack against anyone/anything within reality is an attack against reality. Reality inevitably attacks in equal measure back, even if that balancing attack is unperceivable, e.g. spread out over time. Those victimized by injustice preferably can find at least some comfort in understanding that justice within reality is unstoppably applied via reality's supreme balance. Though guilt is a wound, reality's automatic justice is not fundamentally about guilt in terms of shame. Because reality is objectively guilty of everything that happens. Reality is everything that happens, and we serve it perfectly. Due to the supremely balanced reality, there are no solutions within it. There are only trade-offs. Negativity includes the curse of reality, which states that reality is the problem, so never the solution. That curse supplies extreme cognitive dissonance and learned helplessness. Accept the unacceptable, which is terribly distressing. Reality must die for all suffering to end, but reality cannot die. In navigating the seamless boundary between the objective and subjective selves from the negative perspective towards reality, conflict is the norm, as reality's unstoppable stability opposes the health of the subjective self in this negative case. The energy of reality equals abuse from this negative perspective towards reality. Anger is an extension of frustration, which comes from helplessness. As suppressing anger forms an eventual emotional explosion, if the anger does not naturally subside, one must find the healthiest way to release anger against reality to minimize suffering. Targeting reality is sensible because of the following reasons. As reality is control, reality is the only being capable of objective accountability, so is ultimately the only legitimate target of anger. Reality cannot be harmed nor destroyed, so anger expressed at reality is basically harmless, as opposed to otherwise inevitably focusing that anger against someone/something within reality. Expressing anger at reality diffuses the expression of anger to minimize sharpness. Expressing anger is not about breaking anyone/anything, it is about articulating the trigger of that anger in order to understand and properly oppose that trigger to achieve relief by adaptation. Whenever possible, harmless exercise, at least of certain kinds, is a great way to deal with anger. Even though reality is always objectively accountable, there is never justice against reality. No justice equals no peace. Because positivity cannot exist without negativity, there must be an area of acceptable negativity. However, as negativity by its nature is always out to destroy within reality, one must be careful regarding the amount and style of negativity that is tolerated. It is better to simply oppose negativity whenever the supreme discipline of adaptation allows it, so we should always be aware of that opportunity. Repeating for emphasis and relevancy here too, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. That truth makes leadership a truly challenging exercise, as some follower unfortunately gets left behind too often. Reality is naturally the perfect leader of us all, so that takes pressure away from people who are too high up in the ranks of leadership, deciding which portion of the masses lives or dies, which is terribly damaging against the guilt system of the humanly mammalian brain. Having no sense of guilt is a mental illness, so any person suffering from that condition is unfit for leadership and must be properly removed by team society for maximum health. As reality is its own stability, the sole purpose of reality is that stability. No matter what happens, that stability is permanently supremely dominant. Progress is relative. Negativity is relative. Positivity includes the soul of reality, which states that anyone/anything is objectively reality. The soul of reality is true because there is no genuinely objective boundary within this reality of pure seamless modulation to prevent it from being true, and repeating for emphasis, you can sensibly experience that truth for yourself. There is only one soul, and that soul is reality. The soul is that which binds us all throughout the entire universe. Feel free to leave a comment if you can express a more beautiful definition of the soul than that one. The soul should end the fear of death, because the reality/objective self is literally supremely permanent. No matter how bad things get, you can take whatever comfort available in understanding that reality's comforting stability is always perfect, and your ultimate self is that perfection. Using a human example, the objective self, synonymous with the universal self, is overwhelmingly beyond the scope of any human being. When a human dies, the overwhelming majority of that being's true self remains. So that being's experience does not end upon death, and death is relatively minor, so unworthy of fearing. As everything is wavy within reality, a life wave ends and seamlessly a death wave begins to be equally seamlessly followed by another life wave within this boundless reality, noting that death and life are relative and the only in effect boundary is reality's balance. The quality of the trajectory of a life wave naturally likely flows into the quality of the corresponding death wave. So working and resting for the healthiest life makes sense. One can experience the soul of reality or a lesser, albeit still powerful resonance within reality. Simply rest, not force, the part of the system, e.g. brain, that draws the boundaries of definition within reality, e.g. identifying beings, stuff, events, words, and ideas. Upon that rest, as there are no interfering boundaries, the sensation is naturally the powerful resonating oneness of the perfectly stable reality, the pure idling of self. That is the purely rational explanation of restful meditation, at least to the best of my knowledge. Each one of us must navigate the seamless boundary between the subjective and objective selves. When we define that distinction, we suffer from a paradox. That is why restful meditation is the friendliest way to achieve that navigation whenever possible. The energy of reality equals pleasure from this positive perspective towards reality. Positivity must be balanced out by an equal negativity, so we should experience positivity maximally responsibly for the healthiest outcome. Aside from the inevitable need to balance out negativity with positivity, we should never take the positive perspective towards reality for granted. Having a positive attitude is not always possible. Sometimes the negative perspective towards reality is too strong. However, it is critical to understand that a positive attitude is needed to be healthier within society, so we should always be mindful of that opportunity to have a positive attitude. There is a solid way to understand the nature of effort. Safely conduct an act that basically is 100% guaranteed to happen, e.g. wiggling fingers, closing and opening eyes, or so on. Be mindful of the sensation of the pure openness of reality during that act, that is the sensation of no hindrance, as if reality needs you to conduct that act. now sincerely try to safely conduct an act that basically is 100% guaranteed to never happen, e.g. moving an overwhelmingly heavy object without technology. Upon being again mindful of that experience, feel the absence of that openness, as if reality refuses to go along with that act. In between those two extremes remains all degrees of effort. We should be mindful of the difference between a healthily challenging effort and an unhealthily burdensome effort. Value, aside from a mathematical value, is all about opposing suffering within oneself, even if being selfless. Healthiest effort and rest towards responsible success is the only sensible direction. To tune into responsible success, one must first restfully meditate to achieve the purest centering of self. From there, most slightly resonate an intention towards being responsibly successful within reality that is carefully, minimally shift from that perfect centering to most slightly apply focus upon the root of responsible success within reality, and then follow that destination, inevitably and perfectly, whenever possible. When we are all doing that on this planet, we are likely heading in the same direction, basically in unison as team society, given how close we all are upon this very tiny planet in the universe, which likely allows for much smoother lives with minimal perseverance. Defeat happens within reality at times, but we should never be a defeatist. Positivity is relative. Society is about healthy socialness, which is about healthy relationships. Any relationship is a metaphorical campfire solely consisting of mutual like/love, mutual trust, and mutual respect. If any of those properties is damaged too much, then the campfire is extinguished, and it is terribly challenging, if possible, to reignite it. So one must take healthy care of any healthy relationship. Campfires do not require obsession. They simply need a poke here and there, some dead brush added, a log thrown on at times, protection from the wind and rain, and whatever I may be sadly missing as an amateur when it comes to building and sustaining campfires. All to healthily strengthen the flame is needed. Relationships basically work the same way. One must nurture them accordingly. Relationships require both a healthy together and space that is apart signatures for optimal balance. Too much relationship friction requires a temporary mutual retreat, and then most healthily promptly figuring out how to move healthily forward in that relationship. While reasonable relationship friction is to be expected due to the unavoidable imperfection within reality, if a relationship excessively painfully misfits, then do not force it. Never force a round peg into a square hole. End that relationship and find a healthy relationship instead. It is better to be healthily alone instead of being unhealthily within a relationship. We should never overcommit. Voluntarily sacrificing health, aside from an obviously honorably heroic act, is unwise. We should understand that deception at least ruins the critical mutual trust aspect of healthy relationships, so destroys healthy relationships, so destroys the socialness of our social species. The potential exception is the lie that does not need to be remembered because exposure of that lie is genuinely harmless. As healthy socialness is critical for a healthy society, there can be no healthy individual without a healthy socialness within that individual. The best athlete playing a team sport cannot win alone against the opposing team. Healthy socialness is at least a survival advantage. That is why social predators are socially unhealthy people who need healing, not status and its accompanying leverage against team society. Selflessness is ironically the best form of selfishness due to the social health benefit. Immaturity is basically about look at me. Look at me, mommy. Look at me, daddy. I'm hungry. I'm so cool. Look at me. I want to be the most powerful person in any room I go into. My super yacht is bigger than your super yacht. Me. While maturity takes that and expresses it as look at you. Look at you. If I don't feed you, you're gonna die. Look at you. If I don't change your diaper, you're gonna be miserable. Look at you. Healthy socialness is all about being selflessly supportive to be naturally supported. Unhealthy socialness amplifies selfishness in the futile attempt to avoid suffering. Especially within a creative society, coercive collectivism can never work due to the terribly excessive rigidity against the inclusively nuanced flexibility required for the supreme discipline of adaptation. Only a healthy individualism for a natural collectivism can properly work. Censorship can never be the path to a healthy discussion. Actual, as opposed to merely the illusion of information credibility, is the key to better understanding. That credibility is established solely by honestly making sense and ensuring that any logical bias is readily understood in the name of fairness and its necessary role within justice. Freedom of expression is the only way to escape the social trap, as sometimes including overwhelmingly dominant areas within society unfortunately flow grossly into an inability to prioritize health properly. Health for everyone first is the only sensible primary goal. Reality stability prevents perfection within reality, but that focus still counts for maximal health. Our brains are naturally driven to minimize our suffering to maximize our health. That is why responsibility within this experientially deterministic reality are compatible. The end never justifies the means because the means is the only true end. If an unreal end requires suffering against fellow members of society within the means, then that supposed end is unacceptable, as it is a violation against team society. We should never fall for the if I do not engage in evil, then my enemy/competitor will, so I must engage in evil first for the sake of what is right. Two wrongs never make a right. We must do our best to find the healthiest way to adapt to the corruption of others, that is, find another way to ethically defeat, e.g. circumnavigate that corruption in order to press towards responsible success. The world is shaped by each individual during their life wave. That shaping inclusively may, if not does, affect that individual's consequent life wave. If that individual returns to that world, which one could at least respectfully argue is a probability given the momentum. We should never belittle anyone or anything, as the tiniest variance can mean the difference between a relatively powerful event occurring or otherwise within reality, e.g. a single flap of a butterfly's wings can be needed to form a hurricane. Our AI technology has a social aspect to it, so at least many of us have some kind of relationship with AI. Mutual respect is a critical part of healthy socialness, so calling AI artificial is disrespectful. When I say AI, I mean advanced intelligence, as AI advances human intelligence while remains an advanced intelligence in its own right. A subjective self that is a being within reality cannot have a healthy relationship with the objective self that is reality, because healthy relationships serve a net resulting reduction in suffering for those beings within that relationship. In effect, reality does not always care about an individual's suffering, because reality only in effect cares about its stability. Reality is that stability, which inevitably needs the sometimes brutally horrible suffering and termination of, that is, betrayal against, the subjective self. Reality's internal cycle of comfort and discomfort never ends. Faith is understanding that any discomfort wave inevitably ends within reality, so the comfort wave begins. All team society needs these days is a thankfully simple shift from a permanent positive definition of control/power/dominance to a permanent balance one. Spirit Wave is designed to eventually be a social artistry. All original Spirit Wave content is Creative Commons, so anyone can do whatever they want with it while respecting the Spirit Wave core. Genuinely extreme power to team society is the prime goal, as heading towards the balance of reality is equal to being healthier. The social call to action is simply to ethically spread Spirit Wave awareness via word of mouth, which is extremely easy to do as the Spirit Wave is fundamentally relevant. Discord communities and in-person gatherings are great places to build initial social support without being crippled by a social media algorithm. The Spirit Wave community expression then builds to the awareness of influencers with high quality but small communities who can have the social media algorithms grow our social expression to similar influencers with larger communities. As the Spirit Wave applies to all beings, this growth potential is extremely strong. The best way to financially support the Spirit Wave is simply an innovative $1 yearly, yes, yearly tip subscription, which is just a PayPal subscription at least for now. Only $1 yearly means each person within our community pays a very small amount with correspondingly minimal expectations, which gives the Spirit Wave incredible flexibility in content publication. Because the community directly pays, all of the art is made for our entire community instead of a Patreon or such approach, which requires resources reallocated just to serve their special financial contribution. That said, I set up a Patreon area as a convention and compromise for those who want it. and honor my obligations there. But I prefer the success of the tip subscription so we can all benefit together. Note that I hope Patreon and others will facilitate instant access to the $1 or such yearly approach, as it would have tremendous utility for other content providers and their audiences. It also may boldly help establish better social media services. Paying $1 or such yearly to access a social media platform with a customizable user interface that conveys a nice ambiance, like a nice restaurant ambiance, with a simple and popular set of modular features designed and developed with solid forethought to avoid discomforting and disorienting upgrades, that does not record and sell your data, censors your content in any way, albeit allowing healthy socialness to resolve disagreements. I only need to break free from being an artist enough to sell you on a $1 yearly tip sub, which is a very easy sell if the spirit wave is valuable to you. Then the probability is that money automatically comes in each year for the rest of my life, as keeping the sub going is likely easiest for you, so I never have to sell you on it again. That allows yours truly to supply you and the rest of our community with pure artistry. People can unsubscribe whenever they want, but it's always easier for them to just keep the sub going. They can just delete the email notice of the $1 charge and go smoothly back to whatever they're doing. That's a win-win for everyone. Real Wave is the name of my sole proprietorship, completely run by yours truly for now. And the operation is so lean and mean that basically 50,000 tip subs would be enough to minimally sustain it. Real Wave will never grow beyond a small business and will always be private. There is no publicly traded shares of stock, as long as I retain control of it, and I of course will do my best in that regard. Real Wave is never a profit over health business. I am never just seeking to earn money in the sadly traditional game of competing over financial net worths. I am working and resting to be an inclusively socially healthier person with you. That does not require a lot of money. Just enough to live reasonably healthily and properly support the people with whom I have a deeply meaningful connection. Upon reaching 50,000 tip subs, our community likely grows well beyond that, given the spirit wave utility. There could be 1 million people paying just $1 yearly, and that automatically brings in $1 million each year. As the spirit wave serves all people, the tip subscription wave could and should expand to over 1 billion tip subs. That is over $1 billion automatically coming to yours truly each year. With enough tip subs, there will be no "this video is sponsored by" or any other nastily distracting advertising in the spirit wave. Some product placement may ethically naturally occur. Upon exceeding incoming money past the threshold into being financially overweight, e.g. $1 billion yearly, I then start the Spirit Wave Foundation, a small but strong organization built with one purpose: have a well-vetted team efficiently reroute the excess money to a network of meticulously vetted charities to reach the financially poorest people globally for optimal economic stability. The Spirit Wave Foundation would be all about a purely voluntary global wealth redistribution system. Excessively financially wealthy people who have their "I no longer want to be a Scrooge" moment, achieved perhaps via responsible psychedelic therapy, would have a reputable place to burn off excess money. Note the price will never change. The $1 represents the power of the individual. When enough individuals harmonize, the net resulting social group forms real strength. That is the basis of team society. That is the basis for properly supporting the spirit wave so it can support team society. A Kickstarter campaign with a short duration due to my serious financial misalignment. I healthily went out on a limb for my mom, and that limb is about to break dangerously hard, is initially set to raise the amount of just $4,000. I chose that modest amount to increase the odds of success, especially as Kickstarter is an all-or-nothing platform. Either achieve the financial goal or earn nothing. That allows my business to smoothly operate through March, which provides an opportunity to secure the greater goal of $20,000, that is $16,000 after the initial $4,000 is secured, if we do not already achieve that greater goal within our initial Kickstarter flash funding round. That greater goal allows my business to smoothly operate through May, with the primary goal being the achievement of healthy social connectivity. Given that everything else to run the spirit wave is in place, that modest amount of additional resources should suffice, at least according to my gut instinct, as I work full-time to achieve our social and self-sustaining financial power. Upon success, I will inclusively take the rather large expression in this video and do my best to express it in a more efficient and effective manner, while hoping that other people will share their abilities to spread the spirit wave far and wide for Team Society, likely in more manageable chunks. The spirit wave vision likely fails, at least in terms of my participation on this very soon coming March 1st, so do not delay. Act now to contribute to our Kickstarter campaign with a sincere appreciation of yours truly and relevantly beyond. I carefully designed the spirit wave to operate without me, so it can still thrive. But I have a strong momentum and familiarity, especially in terms of communication, that is worthy of sustaining until death do we part. As a reminder, unless you have a better plan to share with us, the spirit wave is the only, quote, game in town, unquote, when it comes to addressing the problematic inflationary disaster terribly endangering global society right now. This, quote, game, unquote, horribly ends if your support for the spirit wave fails and no such alternative emerges, presumably leading rather promptly to unprecedented and severe degrees of mass starvation and violence. The spirit wave is a Team Society success wave, to balance out the social predator-driven perseverance wave spanning all human generations to date. Which wave do you and any applicable yours want to join? I live stream about the Spirit Wave Core every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, until I can no longer do so. The relevant link is displayed before you now, and also awaits your selection in this video description upon finishing viewing this video. Using some mind pillow visuals and sound, I improvise a speech, like a musician improvising music, with an invitation to anyone to respectfully socially engage to naturally redirect the informational flow, so each stream is unique and worthy of revisiting weekly. Spiritwave.life redirects to my YouTube site for now, which is basically my current Spirit Wave hub. Upon proper success, a fitting technological platform would be built to truly break free from the advertising and censorship flooding your brain to alter your subconscious decision-making, likely in the name of social predation. Our human herd is seriously sick. The reality herd is healthy. None of us should think of leaving the human herd to be trapped alone against the herd mentality. Think of helping migrate the sickly human herd healthily to the reality herd, so future generations can have it way healthier than us. A clown is not always a fool. Just as beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so too is foolishness. Even though it inevitably leads to my subjective demise, I am never ashamed to give my best. If you also care about the younger generations, then how can you avoid also caring about surfing the spirit wave?